Human cyborgs, welcome. Kevin of 9 here. Today let's talk about the first time I went to the cardiologist after learning I had a heart problem. Two days after the cardiologist called me, my wife and I went to meet him in person, and both of us were still very skeptical. When he first started talking to the cardiologist, he explained that my heart had paused for 5 seconds in two separate events while I was sleeping one night. He then went on to explain the normal heart rate, the chart, and he showed me what a normal readout would be, which I've got right here. So as you can see, the P wave is the signal sent by the top right atrium, which is considered the heart's natural pacemaker, and after it tells the atria to contract, the signal travels down the AV node to the ventricles, which contract the bottom of your heart, which actually pumps the blood through the rest of your body. And that's a normal rhythm here. We've got the signal from the atria, QR complex, which is the ventricles, recovery, and then again and again. So after showing me what the normal one looked like, he showed me what my heart monitor recorded while I was sleeping. So as you can see here, my atrium was sent the signal to beat 3 times before, and the ventricles didn't beat at all. And then on the 4th time, it finally beat. That was a 5.5 second pause of my heart, which the cardiologist explained that this was called AV node block or complete block. There are several different categories of block. The first one, in the least severe, the type 1, which is a little pause longer than normal between the beat of the atrium and the ventricle. And the type 2 was a little bit longer still, and then the type 3 or complete block was the most severe, where the signal didn't go through at all. And that's what I was having.
You will be assimilated.
He explained that some of the symptoms that patients normally experience when they have this type of heart block is fainting spells, falling down, feeling lightheaded, and I wasn't having any of those. So again, that kind of led me to be skeptical about whether or not I needed the pacemaker in the first place. So the concern was, though, and I heeded his concern, that if this did happen, if I suddenly became symptomatic and would have a fainting spell or would lose consciousness while I was driving with my family in the car, especially, we could have crashed the car. The cardiologist also explained the difference between electrical problems with the heart, which I was having, and plumbing problems with the heart, which are more commonly associated with heart attack, like clogged arteries, if you have high cholesterol, plaque buildup. And he said that was not what I was having. He said it was purely an electrical problem, and that a pacemaker would help me with that. He also talked about a 2-lead pacemaker, which he thought I would need. One wire would go into the ventricle, and one would go into the atrium. And what it would do is it would sense the signal at the top, and then it would start a timer. And then if the lower chamber of the heart didn't beat within a specified amount of time, it would send a signal that would stimulate the lower muscle of the ventricle and cause it to pump. So he also explained a new type of pacemaker which wasn't available yet. It was called a leadless pacemaker, which is like a little pill, and it would actually be placed all the way down into the ventricle, but these weren't available yet. It did seem appealing for a little while until I calculated that the lifespan of that thing would only be 5 years, and hopefully I'd be around a lot longer, and there's really a risk of not being able to remove the leadless one, and when subsequent ones would have to be implanted in patients, they would just implant another one if they couldn't remove the first one. And that didn't seem like a good long-term strategy from that standpoint. But like I said, I was still kind of skeptical about whether I needed one. I was afraid. He talked a lot about the risks of the surgery and it was kind of like a whirlwind for us. So, when we left that day, we were both still a little skeptical. We kind of wanted to get a second opinion, and that's what we ended up doing. After we left the cardiologist, I was still skeptical. I was going back and forth about whether or not I needed to get a pacemaker. I know he presented clear evidence that I did, but I was thinking still that these events only happened at night, and I'm not driving at night while I'm asleep, so maybe I can wait a little bit. Maybe this is a rush to get this done. And we ended up talking to a nurse friend of ours that gave me my first unofficial second opinion, where she said, I've seen people that have this and not wake up in the morning. So, and she did say she was trying to scare me a little bit to keep motivated to get this taken care of. She didn't want me to think I was going to die that night, but she wanted to make sure she imparted the importance of getting this situation taken care of. And after that, we did call to a different city with a bigger hospital, and I did make another appointment to see a cardiologist for the official second opinion, but that was about 2 weeks after, 2 weeks away. So the original cardiologist that we saw told me that, you're probably not going to drop dead from this right away. These things get worse over time, but we caught it now and you need to get it taken care of. So I figured I was okay. I was a little nervous to go, without, so I left the heart monitor on and figured that would alert the cardiologist if something bad happened and I needed to go to the ER. But I made my appointment in the larger city, and in the next video, I'll talk about meeting him for the first time and what he told me and how he reassured me and convinced me that getting the pacemaker was the right thing for me to do.
Subscribe now. Resistance is futile.